Okay, I'm gonna pull up my question. Okay, Rachel, welcome. I'm so glad you're
Hey,
here.
Kallie.
Hi. Okay, we're just gonna jump right into it. So I have been stalking your Instagram and your Insta stories, and it looks like you just got back from this incredible retreat in, is it Sausalito?
Sayulita. Sayulita.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mexico. So it's near Puerto Vallarta, but it's this cute little surf town. And it's kind of like hippie vibes, very laid back. But this sound healer that I've been doing my 50-hour sound healing training with, she's become my mentor. She lives in Sayulita, Mexico. And so she found this beautiful resort location that she was actually hired to do like a sound bath for a retreat. And when she walked onto that property, she's like, oh my gosh, I have been playing way too small. And it like expanded her perspective on what her dream was to be an abundant sound healer and eventually host her own retreats there. And so this one was the level 2 expand your light sound healing retreat. It was phenomenal. It was my first retreat ever. So like just that alone, it was an incredible experience, but then also to be with like-minded people in a place that's specific for healing, it was just transformational, and I'm so grateful for that experience.
Yeah, it looked so like aesthetically just cool too. Like the food, the clothes, the views, like everything just looked gorgeous.
Yes, it was good food, like very nutritious. Her friend came and she hosted the cacao ceremony, and then she also cooked for us every single day. So it was pretty incredible. And then also I don't know how to pack light. So I brought 2 suitcases full of my stuff and um, treated it kind of like a festival because I love fashion. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I feel like in those experiences too, it's really nourishing just to be around other women that are like in the same place. And it doesn't even have to be like super profound conversations. It's just the proximity of being close to other women like that is really special. How is that for you?
100%. Yeah, I feel like being in close proximity with other women, other people that are working on themselves and aspiring towards similar ideal paths for themselves. It just like our energy rubs off on each other, and it's like we build each other up, and we got to know each other pretty quickly. And I feel like we've all bonded, like we found a sisterhood through this experience. And I know we're gonna keep being in contact with each other on Instagram, and we have a 3-week follow-up to come. So I'm
Mm.
looking forward to seeing them again. And I feel like it's fun to cheer on these people along the way too.
Yeah, that's really special. And was
Yeah.
there like a particular moment for you at the retreat where you felt, I know in my experience with retreats, sometimes it's the whole experience of just like the cumulative effect of just being in nature and being around people. And then sometimes there's like one moment where I'm like, this moment was really profound for me. Did you have a moment like that, or was it just the whole experience?
I think the first day walking in there, it was pretty profound, just realizing that I was walking into Rosie's world. And it was like the most magical parts of her world. The way that she curated her retreat was like each day had a theme, and then we were able to dive deeper into like our own healing within that theme. So, for example, on day 3, it was like a voice activation day. And during our yoga, our morning practice, we activated our voices, like kind of like yelling out and exclaiming like just like what we're grateful for and just using our voices. And then later that day, we had a session where we used the crystal bowl and we were singing like a harmony back to each other. So she would start with like a humming and then encourage us to like open up our mouth with a vowel at the end of the humming so that it would create like a sound, a note. And normally I'm not a singer. I just play the crystal bowls, but singing is
Yeah.
definitely something that I feel like I can use as a tool to help heal my voice because I have had these limiting beliefs that like my voice doesn't matter or I felt invisible. I just haven't felt super confident in my voice. And so using sound healing as a tool to activate my voice further and feeling confident and sharing my voice in like a singing way is definitely something that steps me outside my comfort zone. And it's something that feels good in my soul. So that day was like phenomenal. And then we ended with the Temescal sweat lodge.
That's
So
so
it was
cool.
from start to finish, that entire day was just like chef's kiss. It was such an incredible experience.
So what did that look like, the sweat lodge?
So we arrived, and there were a few other people there. They do weekly sweat lodge meetings, I guess. And some people were regulars. Everyone was kind of meditating, listening to music, and they prepared us by telling us about this Temescal, which basically they call it a medicine. They bring in these fiery hot stones and they raked it in the center of the Temescal, like a chimney. And then they poured water on it and it got super steamy in there. There's only like a little chimney to let the steam out. And so we're basically baking inside of this womb, they call it. And it's
Wow.
supposed to symbolize rebirth. It's also pitch black in there. So we have
Oh
to
God.
like, yeah, we had to like rely on each other and just like knowing that we had the support there that we
Wow.
need. They had a shaman who was in charge of opening and closing the door with blankets between each round. And there were 4 rounds. Each round was dedicated to an element. And based on the element uh, it would basically direct the shaman to like how much rhythm he was beating on the drum and like the type of breathing that we were doing. So it was very somatic in that way. And it forced you to like focus and it was literally like one breath at a time. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, it was
that's
intense.
so cool. So there's music while you're in there.
There's chanting.
Are you doing the chanting?
It was in Spanish mostly, so I tried. He encouraged us to chant with him, so it was more like harmonizing with whatever vocals I could kind of like
Wow.
predict to chant with. But yeah, and then they encouraged us to like pray, and we were saying like, like I was praying like show me that I have the strength to complete this. Like
Mm.
if I can tackle this challenge and complete this, then I really know how resilient I truly am. And when I left the Temescal, I felt like a warrior. I was like on my hands and knees. I smudged the mud on my face and I
That's
was
so
like,
cool.
yes, I felt so strong and so powerful.
So how long is each session? You said you like go in and out. So like how long is one round?
It had to have been 10 minutes each. So that's
Oh
40
God.
minutes total.
It's a long time.
Yeah. I feel like my hot yoga really prepared me for it.
Yeah. I can't even do like 2 minutes in a steam room, so that's impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very difficult.
Kind of going back to what you said about the like using your voice, because I didn't
Mm.
really I'm not super into sound healing. Like I don't know that much about the science behind it or the even like the culture of it. And so the hearing about the voice activation is really cool. And I have this question that's what surprised you most about how sound healing has helped you reclaim your voice, both literally and metaphorically?
Yeah, so quite literally, I feel like sound with the crystal bowls, it provides a safe space for me to practice using my own voice in a way that I can just do it for myself. So there's healing. There's what I've learned through sound healing really is like you have to take care of yourself in your daily practice in order to be a source of overflow to help other
Mm.
people heal themselves. And so, quite literally, I'm healing my voice through the crystal bowls and using my voice and singing with the bowls and harmonizing. And maybe one day I'll feel confident enough to share that with other people in a sound bath situation. But just for now, I know that it's enough for me to practice on my own, and I find joy in that. And um, and yeah, there's just so much growth there and so much learning. And eventually I'll be able to share that with other people, which I'm sure like that's going to be a major step for me. But I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and you said you were kind of working on that in the background right now as well.
Yeah, so I'm working on getting my website set up. I have been doing cameos for people requesting birthday sound baths and Mother's Day sound baths, and I get quite a few from women who just want to gift themselves a sound bath. But with Cameo, it's limited. I can only do 10 minutes. So I'm working on creating a website where I can book one-on-one sound healing with people who want to dive deeper into their own challenges and really set an intention with the sound bath. So we can talk a little bit about what things are happening in life, what things are coming up, and be very intentional with how I'm using the crystal bowls to bring in a specific type of healing energy. And yeah, because it's been cool. All the different requests are different. Like I got one request from a woman who has a brother who has special needs, and her mom passed away recently, and so she had been dealing with like some heavier stuff. So something like that would be a different intentionality versus someone who is celebrating something special happening in their life. So it can be very personalized and geared towards whatever they need.
So on that too, I actually recently I'm like realizing now people might be listening that don't know what sound healing is or the idea behind it. I actually recently just had a friend ask me this question and I was like, I don't really I don't really know how to answer, but I'll give it a shot. But I'm wondering if you can just briefly define like what is sound healing, what is the science behind it, and what would the difference be, for example, of like working with someone who's grieving versus working with someone who's in a more joyful, celebratory space.
Right. So a lot of sound healing is working with the energy. And so, for instance, someone who's grieving has a different energy surrounding it versus someone who's celebrating like a new baby in their life. So, it's basically setting the intention for what you want to bring in, either like healing, overcoming this grief, holding space for that person that has passed, um, and honoring that. Or if you're celebrating a new life, kind of like creating the intention for what you want to bring into this new life and what the hopes and aspirations are. So like setting up that intention first and then allowing basically I allow my hands to kind of flow with the crystal bowls to bring in certain notes and frequencies. They're all tuned to, I think it's 328 hertz, which is the frequency of nature and healing. Basically, the sounds set your brain into parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system. So your body can relax and it helps reprogram your subconscious, whatever you're hoping to bring in with your intention. And then after the sound bath session is over, I open it up for feedback, or just allowing for time to share whatever that person may have experienced during that sound bath. And then, you just take care of yourself for the rest of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I've had some really powerful experiences with sound baths too. And I don't know if it's the intentionality or the technical bit with, using certain bowls, but I've had experiences where I experienced a sound bath and then afterwards I was like, wow, so many really happy childhood memories came up with that. And my friend was like, "Oh yeah, they're using the happy bowls." I don't know what that means, but they're using bowls that are more tuned in for joy. Whereas the sound bath before, she said, had a really different vibe and people were like crying and they were using bowls that were more for holding space for grief and sadness. So it's just, I don't know how it works on a technical level, but it's like, it's really interesting.
Yes, there are harmonies that I work with that are more grounding. And then there's harmonies that are more ethereal. And then there's also two different octaves. So the lower octave has typically a more grounding effect. I just got those bowls in, so I'm still practicing with them and learning them. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with the intentionality behind playing the bowls, though, because it's also the resonance and the the amount of space that you hold between chiming each note. So, like if you were doing more of a joyful sound bath, you could do higher notes and more chiming to create like a higher fluttery effect. If
Mm.
you were doing more of like an intentional grief sound bath, you would I would typically do like lower bowls and holding the notes, swirling the bowl for longer periods of time so that you can really sink into your body sensations and start processing those emotions.
Okay, love that. See, that's where I get really curious is the technical, because I'm like, how can they make it feel so the quality is so different, you know,
Yeah, it's beautiful too because every single sound bath is different
and unique.
and unique. Yeah. There's also binaural beats, if you want to get technical with it, that helps shift your brain wave into parasympathetic, the parasympathetic nervous
Is that
system.
what it is?
The binaural beats basically it sounds like a womp 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 and it's going in both ears at different times, the notes, and it's typically notes that are one note away from each other. So like the F note and the E note, if you play them together, it creates a dissonance almost, and because the notes are very similar, and then your brain, it's like a binaural stimulation.
That's so
Um,
interesting.
huh?
I just said that's so interesting.
It is very interesting, and I'm still learning about it, but it is very fascinating and interesting. And I feel like there's a lot of ways that sound healing, like if you just go to a sound bath, you may not even realize what you're receiving, but
Mm.
just trusting that you are receiving what you need to receive at that time.
They're very relaxing. I will
Yeah.
say that. Like you wake up and you're like, what plane, what realm was I just in?
Yeah. And I feel like doing it in person is the best too. Like if you have the opportunity to go, find a local sound healer and just go take a sound class or a session because in person, like those frequencies really do hit the body. It's nice.
Yeah, in person, it's really incredible. I've had some good experiences on Zoom as well, though. Okay, so switching beats a little bit. And I just want to say, I'm noticing even as we approach this topic, I'm noticing activation in my own body about this kind of going back in time and talking and exploring about this topic of being the villain. And I know I like met you when you were like really in it the first time.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just want to voice that for myself, like noticing that that's happening in my own system. So a few years ago, you were handed this like villain label by the world. When did you stop trying to take it off and start instead asking, like, what if I wear this with intention?
Honestly, I think it was when I saw one of your videos on Instagram. I saw how you were talking about embracing your inner villain, and that concept to me was a very new idea. And it made me rethink, like, okay, what if part of expanding into the next level and I don't know, like this whole evolution process is being misunderstood. Let me try that again. Part of expanding into the next level and part of my evolution process is being misunderstood and accepting that as a part of this journey and overcoming what everyone else thinks of me and overcoming those people pleasing tendencies and allowing myself to just be like, okay, well, what if I am the villain in people's minds? Then what? Like, how much more freeing is that? Then I can just sit back, not come from this place of defensiveness
Mhm.
anymore,
Yeah.
and just speak from the heart, speak my truth, and whoever resonates on that, that's who the message was meant to be for. And if you are coming at me in a very attacking type of way, like then the messaging wasn't meant for that person anyway, and I can accept that and allow that to be the case. So it was a lot more freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just letting that land for myself. Um, I know in my system, the feeling of being misunderstood is so threatening. Like, I don't know how that was for you, but on the micro and the macro, when I've experienced that, it's can feel really distressing. And I'm curious, like in the thick of it, when it felt like the noise was trying to kind of drown you, what did your inner knowing sound like? Like, was there a moment or a mantra that you were able to anchor you back to yourself?
Well, I knew for me I wasn't a villain. I don't know if what your experience was like for you, but I knew that I was acting out of a place of being unhealed, acting out of my subconscious programming, um, acting out of a place of survival and compromising my values. Also, allowing myself to be surrounded by people that weren't the healthiest, um, and trusting in people that weren't trustworthy. And so I've learned those lessons and I've taken action to protect myself so that I don't put myself in those positions again, you know, because I
Yeah,
recognize
that
that.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I see what you're saying. And like in those moments, even when you kind of were in it, was there like what? Because I know for myself, and I'm just like bringing this up because this is my experience in this arena of mass misunderstandings, but I know it was on a very different scale. But I know there was like times for myself when I was just really in a bad spot. And I think the only things that could really support me were like my friends and just going into nature. Like I just didn't even want to look at my phone. And I'm just
Okay.
curious, like, what was supportive for you? Was it people? Was it like, I don't know if you had found kind of sound healing at that point or like an affirmation or just the support? Like, I'm just very curious what that was for you.
It was definitely the support. I spent 3 months at a mental health facility. Um, I didn't have my phone, so I didn't have any access to social media. Um,
That's a good place to start.
yeah. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I had the resources that I did, honestly, because it could have been a completely different story if I didn't have those resources. I had round the clock therapy, access to therapists 24/7. I had group therapy sessions every single day. We did meditation practices, yoga practices, and with meditation, that was my first kind of intro to sound healing, just because one of the meditation practitioners brought in a bell with her that she would chime towards the end of the session, and I we loved that. We called her Rachel with the bells. And
That's
yeah,
cute.
and I think that probably passed over to where I'm at now with my sound healing journey. But I think probably the mantra to well, there was a lot. There's a lot of deep therapy work that I worked on, but one of the things I think that held me back from fully expressing myself um, was growing up. I wasn't allowed to show my all my emotions with anger, and I've learned that anger is a healthy emotion.
Mm.
It's just a more difficult emotion to have for me, and but it's healthy because it shows you where your boundaries are being crossed and it shows you where you need to implement these boundaries to protect yourself. So,
Mm. Hell yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love anger, so I'm all for it. And you mentioned too, I really love this point of you said you were kind of stepping away from the chaos of reality TV, and I feel like it really shows because you just seem so clear now, like from just watching your stuff on social media, you seem like very joyful and clear and glowing. And I'm just curious, like, what does that departure away from the chaos of reality TV, what does it feel like in your system? Or like, what does it feel like kind of somatically to choose a new storyline for yourself?
It feels empowering. I feel it in my chest area, just like this glowing light. And it's kind of like leading me chest forward, walking through space, walking through wherever I'm walking to. Because it's like leaving that space where I had to compromise my values and stepping into like saying no to that and stepping into a new space that allows me to be fully authentically myself with safe people that hold space for me, um, and allow me to occasionally mess up or give me reflections back so that I can see myself more clearly. And then it's also building trust with myself because when you've betrayed yourself so many times, um, you tend to lose trust with yourself. So it's allowing myself to have these new opportunities for me to show up for myself, choose myself, and start building that trust again. And I feel like confidence grows from that place.
Mm. I'm curious. I have two things that came up while you were saying that. Number one is like, what is it like to kind of shift from like a culture of people that you were surrounding yourself with before to like this different culture of relationship? And then also, I'm really curious what it's like to go from being constantly perceived, like being on camera so frequently, to not having that.
Okay, so the first question you said, how does it feel to leave?
Yeah, like just the you it from what I understand, I've not watched the show, so I've only seen clips, so I'm slightly uninformed. But from what I've seen, there's like a certain culture of like
Yeah,
lots of fighting and gossiping and
right.
a certain acceptance of that. And so I'm curious, I don't know if that's like still present in your, current sphere, but how has it been to transition from one culture to another?
Okay, yes. The fighting, the abuse cycles, the arguments, and the drama were all very normalized on reality TV. In fact, it was the thing that kept the show going. And so by choosing something different for myself, recognizing that those things aren't healthy for me, choosing something different for myself. And like you said, it is a completely different culture, especially like this healing space that I'm fully immersed into. It's like the complete opposite side of the spectrum, right? Um, it's it's like night and day. Like I am so grateful to be in this space because it's people lifting each other up and wanting the best for each other and finding these spaces where you can resonate with other people, on a level where like it's more effortless.
Like maybe
And
more connection focused than transaction.
100%, yes, more connection focused rather than transaction focused. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad for you that you like found this for yourself. And then what about the presence of the cameras or the absence of the cameras?
Yeah. It's it's interesting because I feel like part of the reason why I was drawn to go on a reality TV show, how like this whole thing manifested, I think it was like this childhood wound where I felt invisible. And so being seen is something that I wanted subconsciously. And being misunderstood was the lesson that I had to learn through that process. And now being known is my main motive. I would rather have people know me for me than just see me as this celebrity or whatever, you know? I would rather have that intimate connection with people. And and yeah, I forgot what the question was now.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying though, of like initially it was this draw to reality TV of like, oh, like this is the opposite of how I felt, which is invisible, and now I'm gonna be seen and like witnessed and but maybe in a more like, and this is just what I understood from what you said, performative way of like
Mhm.
showing up. And then now you're like, okay, I don't, well, first of all, you said misunderstood, which sucks. That's like such that is how karma works, right? Like, or what is the
Mhm.
Dharma? It's like, oh, you want to be seen as good? Okay, here's like a million people that hate you now. Like, great,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. I think I was number one villain in the world for a moment there.
It's kind of cool though. I mean, like, how many people
Whoa.
can say that?
It's just wild to me because if you really knew me too, you would not ever think that I would be labeled as the villain. And I think also too, there was something in my mind. I think I was naive to that fact too, because I was like, oh, there's no way they could spin this, like take advantage of this situation and spin it into something
That's
that
so much trust.
you know, oh man. Yeah, I had a lot to learn. But in a weird way, with going back to feeling invisible and feeling like my I felt like I didn't have an impact on the world. But through this experience, I have now learned that I do have a massive impact on the world. So I think that also, like, knowing that has given me this newfound light to share my healing with other people. And if I can do it in a way that brings me joy, that I feel like I'm not selling my soul, I'm like fulfilling my soul by doing it, that's like the ultimate goal. So I feel like I found that with sound healing.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah,
I love that. Oh, yeah. The Dharma, you know what I mean by Dharma, right?
explain it.
So in yoga, they talk about Dharma. So it's kind of like your karma, like your destiny.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I feel like I experienced that in a way of like, I really wanted to be perceived as good. Like, I want people to like me. And then it's like, oh, nope. Like, the thing that you want most sometimes, there's this quote that Parvati says, it's like, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill it. It's like the thing that you want most external to you you need to kill it. And sometimes it gets killed for you.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah. Sacrifice. Just, yes.
I love
Um,
Parvati, by the way. I
I
love that you
know.
worked with her.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's been through it. She was, experiences when people would like write mail, like hate
Yeah.
mail
Yeah, because
back
that
in
was
the
like
day.
before before DMs, right?
Like sometimes I wonder like who are these fucking losers writing in DMs or comments? And I'm like, people used to write mail. Like
Dang.
that's a lot of commitment. Okay, so kind of coming back to this idea of like being your own medicine.
Yeah.
How do you know when your healing is actually working? So not in like a healed girl aesthetic way, but like truly a felt sense in your body and then also mirrored in your relationships.
Oh, I love this question. Um, this is a cool question because I feel like it's an ongoing process, yet I have experienced it because now my relationships are healthy. It has been mirrored back to me. Um, I have a loving boyfriend who is so supportive. He doesn't quite understand all the healy-feely sound bowl stuff, but he 100% supports me and my decisions, and he loves to just like chill out and meditate while I play the bowls. So I love that so much. Um, and physically in my body, okay, so the question was, how do I know that I'm healing, right?
Yeah, or like what's the felt sense of that for you and how can you differentiate that from like, I guess, performative healing?
Um, I think the borderline of when it becomes performative, because I definitely didn't want to show up as performative on Instagram or like in my life. I want it to be authentic. I think it's sharing what I've experienced, like, for example, through this retreat process, like sharing the nuggets that I took away from it in a post where you can kind of read the description and have a little snapshot into that process for me. That way, I feel like it's authentic because I'm sharing it to whoever's interested in reading it because it does take a little bit more effort
Mm.
to like read that caption. And B, I'm sharing it as a document, like to document my own journey for myself. So I like to view my Instagram as maybe like my own personal diary in a way where I can look back on this time and see the steps that I've taken in my healing journey. And reflect on that and like remember these times because it has been so transformative. Sorry, it has been so transformative in this past year and a half to 2 years. Um, and I hear it's an ongoing process. So,
Unfortunately, unfortunately. And I actually
yeah.
I have this other question that came up for me too when you were talking earlier of like this idea of it being ongoing, of like especially around this idea of being misunderstood, because that was something I really had to overcome of like not enmeshing in all my relationships, not constantly fawning to every single person I meet, because the impulse is there for me always. Like it's like this very addictive thing, like chemically in the brain. So I'm not, I don't think I'll ever be like, quote, healed from this, just like an alcoholic is never healed from their alcoholism because I always have the urge. So I'm like curious how it is for you on like a day to day, if that's something that you still experience or like around being misunderstood or around um, kind of like feeling invisible or anything that you had mentioned previously.
I feel like it was really difficult about a year ago when I was doing the podcast and still defending myself online because I was still getting attacked. I perceived it as attacks from the show and from people online, kind of like this misinformation. But now that I've been able to say no to those things and choose my friend group carefully um and like I'm not consuming that stuff anymore, so it is a lot less um being in fight or flight and wanting to defend and feeling misunderstood. I honestly feel like part of the reason why I started that podcast was to get my side out there and at least like knowing that it's out there. At least I've said my piece and it's out there in the world. And I do feel like I was able to say everything that I needed to say with that. So I feel at peace with that. And now it's like I'm just fully immersed in this healing world, which has allowed me to be a lot more creative and create this soul-led business where I can help other people and also serve myself.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like basically being removed from this environment that was stimulating a lot of the activation and the mm, like that those feelings of being misunderstood or the feelings of being invisible, just removing yourself from that environment. It's crazy how being around good people
Yep.
and supportive people, it's like we don't have to have the defense mechanisms up as much.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And on that note too, like this idea of transforming from being in the state of maybe more defense because you're experiencing more activation and it's just completely different environment. How have your boundaries evolved from operating from defense to now operating from self-love and devotion?
It's I feel like the hardest part with setting boundaries was setting them, like choosing yourself, setting them, and then making the action. If someone crossed the boundary, it was like, damn, this sucks. But now I need to remove myself from the situation. Because one of the things that I've learned is you can't control anybody else. You can only control yourself. So upholding a boundary is basically you saying, if this happens, then I won't be able to be friends with you anymore, or like whatever the situation may be. And then it's up to you to uphold that boundary for yourself and remove yourself from that friendship. Um, and it sucks when it happens because you wish it weren't that way. Um, but when you uphold your boundaries, you start building that trust with yourself, and it becomes easier to maintain because you're basically showing other people how to treat you, is what I found.
Yeah, I love that you say that too about like it's how I'm showing up because I feel like the pop psychology gets it very it's almost like a narcissistic abuse tactic of boundaries at times where people are like, "Well, you're not going to talk to me like this." And it's like they can talk to you however they want. Where
Hmm.
instead it's like, "I'm not going to be present if you talk to me this way. I'm going to have to leave." So I love that you mentioned that. It's like a reframe.
Yes. Yep.
All right. And then I have this question of just imagining that there's like a listener out there who's being misunderstood right now. Like maybe I think people experience all the time, on the micro, the macro, just feeling misunderstood, like being cast out, vilified, or just feeling like they're the designated bad girl of the day. What would you say to this person?
I would say hang in there. Being misunderstood is okay. Not everyone needs to know your true intentions. You don't need to defend yourself. Just knowing yourself, knowing why you did the things you did, knowing that you have the chance to choose a different path for the next time around is all you need. And we can do the next best thing for ourselves. Um, Also, like, surround yourself with people that aren't going to judge you so much. Surround yourself with the people that are going to love on you and give you what you need right now, because that's super important.
Yeah, with people that do understand you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then you mentioned earlier, like experiencing somatic practices. I don't know if you mentioned experiencing that at the facility that you spent some time in, or if it was after that.
It was, I feel like we did meditations that were somatic, like filling your each body part up with sand and then imagine it draining out. It's kind of freaky.
I kind of like that. That sounds really relaxing.
Yeah. We did like yoga for like trauma-informed yoga. Um, I feel like my biggest somatic practice that I love to do most is dancing.
Mm.
Feeling into your body and allowing your body to express the emotions is something that I've actually always connected to. And especially when I felt like I didn't have a voice or my voice didn't matter and I felt invisible, I could turn to dance and express my emotions through my body. Um, and that was super healing for me. So kind of reconnecting with the magic of dance again for
And
me.
did you do that in your past? Like, are you a dancer?
Yeah, I am a dancer. I started doing ballet when I was little, and then a neighbor made fun of me and said ballet's for wussies, so I quit.
Whoa, they don't know shit about ballet then.
Yeah, and then I tried every other sport under the sun. But I also got into ballroom dance through cotillion. So I was a ballroom dancer. Then I found dance again through high school. I joined the high school dance team, and that's where I was able to like fully express myself with lyrical and all that stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so nowadays, how does that look for you? Is it like a static dance? Do you go to classes?
Yeah, ecstatic, it would be ecstatic dance for me. I feel like that's the easiest way to kind of find a safe environment for you to express your body fully. We did a little ecstatic dance session at the retreat this past week. So that was really nice. There's also an ecstatic dance center in Santa Monica. What's it called? It's called the Flow Life Sanctuary. So if you're in Santa Monica or in LA, you can check that out. And yeah, I feel like there's probably ecstatic dance lots of places these days,
I
huh?
think so. Yeah, static. I love a static dance. It's so fun. And usually
Yeah.
they're sober. So it's like
Yes.
that's the whole idea of them is that you're showing up sober and you're not, like sloshing around, but it's like a very embodied experience and like you're connecting with the people that are there and yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite somatic practice?
I like just lying on the ground like starfish style when I'm overwhelmed.
She's just like, where did Callie go? She's like,
I'm in
starvished.
the other room on the floor. That feels really grounding to me when I'm overwhelmed. Um, I really like somatic parts work.
Me too.
Yeah, like when I like start to feel activation, I'll kind of like hold that part and like that feels really doable alone because sometimes it's like when you're in the moment, it's like I'm gonna like oh God, like I like start spiraling. So that I really like. I've
Can
also
you
like
explain what
yeah,
parts work is for the people that are listening in and don't know parts work?
yeah. So parts work is this, it's from IFS, which is Internal Family Systems by Richard Schwartz. And it's this idea that within us, there's hundreds or thousands of little parts of us. And each part is like this individual part with thoughts and feelings and desires, and like maybe it wants to protect you in some ways. And they're all largely unconscious, and they also relate to each other and have feelings about each other. So it's like a very complex system of parts within us. And so with parts work, we like go towards those parts and get curious. And somatic parts work, you just use the sensations as trailheads. So you'll be like, oh, I'm feeling anxiety. Maybe it's an anxious part. Like, where do I feel the anxiety? In my chest. And then you start getting curious about the feeling in your chest. And you said you
Yes.
learned about it at Meadows.
Oh my gosh, did I ever? Yes. It it was one of the things that I could relate to most because I think when you abandon yourself in these different ways, there's parts of you that are in major conflict with one another because I wasn't living in integrity with my values. And one part was trying to keep me safe by acting out in a certain way. And then the other part was like seeing things more logistically and not approving of that action. And so it's like a constant battle. And once I was able to like identify and recognize those parts, and then you could also go back to like your childhood wounds and where these parts came from. They're like they typically form to protect your inner child or your childhood, your wounded child. And so I was able to identify these protective parts and then like give them love and validate them and see them and care for them the way that I always needed. And that helped so much. And with the sound healing, I feel like there's something that I can do with parts work, like focusing in on a specific part of a client and then feeling into that part where it is in their body and then using the bowl to really get deep into like feeling into that and giving that part love.
That would be so cool. Like a parts work sound bath.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Have you read his book too, No Bad Parts?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So good. I know. I really love the concept of like within us, there's all these parts, and like some of them we're ashamed of, and some of them we've like locked up. But, like none of them are inherently bad. Like
Mhm.
that to me feels like so much relief, even just saying that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why too I resonated a lot with your story because it's like I do think that when people see externally something that's reflected back in them that they're because who are these people going crazy in comment sections, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's something within perhaps an exile or something like that that is like so feeling strongly. And I just feel like when we start to de-shame the bad parts in us, the bad parts in quotes, I feel like we're more able to get curious about other people's quote bad parts. And it's
Mhm.
more than just like an individual experience. It's like a systemic relational thing. I'm curious like your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I love that so much. It's true. Well, Dr. Schwartz says that there's basically like a firefighter part and a manager part. Um, and then there's other parts that can fall into those categories. But the manager is the one that shows up as perfect, like the perfectionist, the one that's caring for your self-image and you can kind of imagine like what that manager part would look like. For me, it was like a My Little Pony, like
They're
with
like
the
trimmed
angel
up.
wings. And then there's the firefighter part. And contrary to the name, it doesn't put out fires. It kind of stirs the pot. It is a little mischievous, acts out, and is rebellious in that way. And so for me, the imagery that came to mind was like Jack Jack from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Just like, like
Just like
unhinged,
pure chaos.
pure chaos, rogue, right?
Yes.
So having these two characters that live within me, you could only imagine the dialogue that's happening.
And that's just two.
And that's just two. So yeah, I think there's something super special about like recognizing the intricacies of humanity. And when you see people that are on reality TV, maybe think of it as a reflection of yourself. Like that could be you in a different timeline, right? Or it could be a part of you that maybe you've been denying and pushing down. And maybe that's why it triggers you. So just being curious about that.
Yeah, I feel like anytime there's like, I notice for myself when I respond with a sense of urgency, not like a really slow developed, like, hmm, I don't think I like this thing that I'm seeing, but it's like, what? What is that? Like that to me is a part because it's like
Mm.
responding with intensity and urgency, whereas the capital S self does not respond with that kind of urgency.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love talking about.
I love this. I love talking about somatic work and parts with you. And for those of you that are listening that resonate with what we're talking about, please find me on Instagram or please book like a consult with me on my website once I get that set up because I would love to do parts work and dive deeper into exactly what we're talking about here. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to that.
Yeah, like parts work sound bath, that like gets me all sparkly feeling and excited. So
Yes.
yes, if you're listening to this and this is like resonating, parts work sound bath with Rachel. Put it
Yeah.
on the calendar.
Yes.
And to start to wrap up, kind of finishing on a high, what's the most unexpected way that you've experienced joy recently, and especially the kind that feels kind of like off limits or naughty?
Oh my.
Or like I had kind of touched on this previously, but I feel like sometimes when we do feel misunderstood, there's like for me, there's this feeling of like, am I allowed to like enjoy life? Am I allowed to like experience pleasure? So like what has that been for you lately? Like this like feeling of joy or pleasure?
It's been starting my soul-led business where I feel fully immersed and like soul fulfilled. Like I said, I'm not selling my soul. I'm not compromising my values. I'm able to help other people and dive deeper into these healing practices that have helped me. And in talking about it and opening that door for others and showing others the way, then true healing happens and true transformation happens. And being able to do that with other people is that's the thing that's like, okay, I think I cracked the matrix. And that's so fulfilling. That is like, that's the thing for me. Yeah.
Go off. Yes, I love. Okay, cool. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we close up?
Um, yeah, why not? Okay.
Take your
Um,
time.
for those listening, just know how worthy you are, how important you are. You all have a place on this earth. And don't let others define you. It's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay to make mistakes and learn and grow and finding the people that allow you to mess up and still love you and give you the opportunity to see it as a learning and growing experience is so important. So surround yourself with positive people. Find the healing practices that bring you joy and serenity, calm your nervous system, and and just keep being a bright light in this world because I think the world needs more of that right now.
Yeah. And where can people find you online?
Find me at Rachel Leviss, RachelLeviss on Instagram. I'm working on my website, so eventually that will be on my Instagram bio. And yeah, I would love to work with you if a sound bath sounds intriguing to you. And we can dive deep on whatever you'd like.
And if you're listening to this and her website is launched, I'll put it in the show notes so that people can access it.
Okay,
Cool.
thanks.
Well, thank you for joining. Okay.